Welcome everyone in this new live development video about building an auto battle game. In this video we're going to build up the system which handles dead player. So how are we going to do this? I think we're going to head over our in-game state, and in here we want to check out this function on take damage which we added to our in-player state, and I think we want to do something like listen to that else update event in the in-game state when we actually record a player state. So in there we are storing the player state, and we'll actually BP player state, BP in player state. I think we'll unplug this and we'll pull this into a function named record player states, and we're going to open up that function. Let's go over here and replug this pin. And what else do we want to do? We want to bind ourselves to the fact that this player has a else change on player else update, which is going to take an in player state, and we're not going to do the same error than yesterday. And I think it takes a vector2d as parameter. So current else in player, and we're going to bind that event. We're going to hit compile, and in there we're going to check out if the value specified is actually inferior or equal to 0. And if it is, we're going to say that this player has lost. Get name, get nickname. We're going to append, and we're going to to yell at the print, the output log we lost, and we're going to reduce the amount of health our player have by default. We're going to put 5. Actually, we're going to put 2, and we're going to add 1 unit, and we're going to do 2 turns. So in here, victory for the red player. I dealt 1 damage and it took 1 damage. And what happens if we have now 2 units? That player died, F7, F9 lost. So he has -1 else. So we don't want that, first of all. So the in-player state is actually going to clamp the value of the else to 0. The maximum is going to be the value we pass as parameter. So like this. So that player died. So what do we want to do when that player died? Oh, we want to keep his nickname. So what do we want to do? We want to remove him from the list of remaining player, I guess. Oh no, this is the combat. This is the list of player still in the combat phase. So we're gonna call them fighting players, like this. And where do we? Oh yeah, but we also update battlefield hosted player. This is called when we actually. So how do we match? We need to check out how are we matching players with each other. Players to match, get remaining players. We're checking if they are alive in here. So I guess we just have to modify that to say that we want to change the state of this player. Where do we? So that's kind of strange. Yeah, we do have a status. Oh yeah, I was looking for state and we want the status. Set status. That player is now dead. So if we do this and we have 4 players, oh, we don't want that. We don't want to run a dedicated server. So if we have 4 players, one of them is not going to be matched the second round. So here we have 4 matches, and I guess, oh, maybe nobody's gonna die. So he takes 1 damage. So green lost. Oh yeah, it took 2 damage. Green took 2 damage. That's quite strange. It had only 1 unit remaining, I believe. Well, I'm not sure. But anyway, green died. So if we're hitting plus, one of the players is not going to be in the combat phase. Oh, actually, they are, but it's bugging. Yeah, it deals 2 damage, whereas the unit is level 1. So we had several bugs here. So I guess we have some kind of error here regarding... So what was these errors about? So the player entry failed to work, just like if when we put the player into the death status, it bugged. Yeah, I think I understand why. That's because we weren't returning... We no longer return it if he's dead, I guess. But first of all, we have to understand why, because if we are only running at 1 player, I think... Oh yeah, we're not even entering the phase because we're looking at... We are waiting for 4 players instead of 1. And I think we've added that as a hard... I'm not sure where we've put that, but at some point we're waiting for a certain amount of players. So, what's going on there? Get remaining players, so it's not giving the pink player, for instance, the green player, for instance, if it died. So we are looking at all remaining players. If we still have two or more players, yeah, so we'll just add a comment real quick. We're doing that check in case the chosen matches are the exact same than previous turn. If that happens, the variable will fail to replicate, to rep notify, and we have to broadcast it manually. So I'm not sure why, if a player doesn't have a battlefield, what happens if someone doesn't have so everyone's doing this, and I'm not here. So the battlefield where I was fighting before does not receive any hosted player, but but the in-game HUD actually does. So what happens in the in-game HUD? When we receive that information on enter new phase, so we entered the combat phase. Yeah, but I'm not working. I'm not fighting, I mean. So this should... So this is actually failing to return my battlefield. So it can't camera switch the proper way. And I don't have an opponent player either. So in here... In here we'll do something like... If we find it, we're gonna return true. If not, we're gonna return -1, -1. So if I enter the combat phase but I don't have any opponents, I'm not gonna do anything. If it's not equal, exactly not equal, -1, -1. Yeah, so I need to be 2 at least. Yeah, so we're gonna try like this. Oh, it bugged. Yeah, we're checking if it's equal. So if that's not equal, exactly not equal, like this. Excuse me. So that guy is gonna be huge, and we'll see how much damage we deal. We deal 2 damage. Okay, so there is definitely a bug. So that guy died, and if I'm hitting plus, we're entering the combat phase, but I'm still in the recruit phase. That's what's supposed to happen. And if I go check several... Okay, so if I go check the last battlefield, we still have the units I had when we won the game, and we're not supposed to have these units, but I don't think that bug comes from the fact that we died. And we can check that real quick. Well, I guess actually, yeah, it might be coming from what we've just done. So they've won, and if we go back to the battlefield now, they're not here. But if we start once more, they're here. So there is also something wrong when it comes to spawning units, the spawning logic in the game state. So I guess, so we're not here, it's certain. Get player battlefield, we're never using this. So what's going on here when we enter a new phase? So we're going to the combat phase. I don't want that. I want something like start combat phase. I don't understand why I'm not finding that. Oh yeah, of course. So yeah, where were we matching the player already? That's what I was looking for. I'm sorry. So we're matching the players we're launching the phase timer, so we're in the recruit phase, we're matching the player with each other, so we're fine with this, but it should not spawn anything when we're arriving. I think something is not being cleared. A variable might not be cleared. Server player unit list. So we are spawning the unit of one of our player here. Yeah. So in there we should be checking out the fighting players count, because it was waiting for this. It was waiting for one player here, but we should be waiting for 0. And I guess one of the player, so our in player state, send combat data, a new game phase started. So if we're dead, we're not going to send our combat data here. If our status is not equal to dead. Well, actually, yeah, we don't want that. If we're not dead, we're gonna do this, else we're not. So we want this and that. So it's dead. It's gonna take 2 damage. And now we're back at the recruitment phase. We don't have any units here, and we're starting a new phase, but we're not fighting, and there are no units. And if we escape, I guess there's no errors as well, so we're fine with this. So we've solved half of our bugs. And now we actually don't want to do this. We actually want to fight when we're an even odd, or even when odd. When we are an odd number of players, we want the last players, we want the player which didn't find a game to actually fight the army of the latest player which died. So how can we do this easily? I think we have a reference to our list of units in the in-game state when a player dies. We're gonna collapse this to a function on player died. This is gonna be in player. We're gonna hit compile and go there. So that player is gonna be dead, but we can do something else, such as, so this is not what we want. We want the server player unit list. So this is the list of unit that guy had in his at the round he died. We want to check out if we haven't cleared this yet. If we haven't, we're going to store that. So we just want to check how much unit it had. When he died. We want to see 3, because blue is gonna die. Yeah, it's getting wrecked. It says 0. That's because we're actually clearing that value when we fight. So we want to check out where we're clearing this. When we're clearing the combat phase, and I think we're clearing the combat phase before we actually received the event we were trying to get. So we'll just check out if we grab this, and we actually want to clear this when we await combat data. So before this, go to combat phase. So when we're going to the combat phase, we will actually clear this value. And I think it will return the proper amount of units now. So blue's gonna die, and it's gonna print 3 units. 0 as well. Oh, well, why is that? So we're going to the combat phase. So we're clearing this. Are we clearing this somewhere else? Yeah, that's actually quite strange. So the player died, but its units list length is 0. Why is it so? Oh, maybe because we've already done that anyway. Yeah, I think we don't want to be doing this here then. That's almost certain that our bug is coming from here. We're clearing the combat phase here. So I guess everything here triggers. We'll just check out real quick. We'll just add this back here real quick just to see when that triggers, because I'm having a hard time understanding why. I have the feeling that it's triggering when we want, and it shouldn't be erasing. Yeah, we didn't clear it, and yet it says 0. And now we've cleared it, so our bug is not coming from here, I guess. So I'm really wondering why. It's returning 0 when it dies. And what if I guess there's something wrong with the dead. Oh yeah, because we're finding the okay, we're finding. We don't want to get its name like this, we want to get its nickname. My bad, it was a silly mistake. So it's gonna say 3, and client says 0. And I'm wondering if we need to broadcast this. Yeah. We don't need to broadcast this, but we have that value in another way. So when the units are actually registering to the tile, the grid gets that information. So everyone does this. Await unit ready. Yeah, only the server does that. Well, we just have to store that information here. But we don't have the location of the units. In there. In here we will have, we don't even have the location of the tile here, so we can be storing that value like this. But I think that's the way we should be doing that. The square hosting the unit should transfer all the way down to here, the location of the tile, just so we can store locally without broadcasting to the server that information. Or do we? I'm just thinking. Everyone would like to know. Yeah, we need to be storing this because everyone would like to know. It's good if we have the information regarding all the army of all the units, all the army of the players at all rounds, in every machine, not only on the server. So I guess we need to be storing, somehow we need to be storing here the unit board. So server player unit list, and we have a player unit list which is actually not an array of, yeah. So this is gonna be player alive units, and we're gonna hit F5, compile all nodes, we're gonna save, we're gonna hit play. Then we can quit. It compile every blueprint, and we can duplicate server player unit list, and we're gonna call that latest player unit list. We're gonna grab this, we're gonna add to this. So this needs to be stored, to be cleared every round. So when we're clearing the combat phase, we need to be clearing this as well. Well, actually, only if we need to remove from here all the players which are alive. So when we match player, we need to be removing all players being matched. So get remaining players. All remaining players are going to be removed from the latest player unit list. And in here we want to add for that player, for that player, and that player, and this map. What do we want to add here? To add, oh yeah, we need to be doing something like this. We need to find, we need to break, we need to promote that to a local variable, temp units, temp unit list. Are we still using this in here? Yep, we are. Add unit to player, so we're storing this. So we're doing this. We're doing it like this. We want to add to that list the unit we just added, and now we want to say that we want to add like this. And we want to grab the unit row of the unit, get unit row like this, and now we need to retrieve that information, the index. So we're going to grab all the way down to here, at square index, and when we compile it's gonna throw errors, and we're gonna fix them. Okay, so this is, where is this being called? In the grid at square index. We want to drag all this all the way down to here. We're gonna hit compile, it's gonna throw error. We're gonna check out where it gives us an error, and I think we need to open up our square, call on new unit hosted, and on new unit hosted is gonna take a vector2d as parameter at index. We're gonna hit refresh all nodes, and we're gonna grab our ID here and pull this here. Or can't we just we don't want that. We want to return the square. In square, we're gonna refresh all nodes once more. We're gonna pull this in, this, and the grid on unit registered is gonna take a square. At square, we're gonna hit compile, and it's gonna work from here. And in here we want to grab this all the way down and get ID like this. So what does this do? This makes it so all players actually store the unit lists of every other players without spending multiplayer traffic bandwidth, without sending information over the network. So which makes it so when we arrive at the moment where a player died, we actually have its latest unit lists. If we grab this here, hit compile, and check this out. So that guy had like 3 units when he died. Yeah, he had 3 units when it died. And we're not on the right side of our camera. And we have, so what was up here? Why did we have these issues? Okay, I think I understand what's going on here. I guess all of our battlefield got reset. I'm not sure what was going on here. -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. 1 3 2. Okay. We don't want that. We want 2 and 3. 0 1 0 1 2 3. Yeah, so there is definitely something wrong here. It has the proper ID here. We're just gonna restart real quick our engine. I don't see how what we've just done could have break that logic. Yeah. Such an engine bug. We don't want that. So we were in the combat phase. That guy is dying. So we've killed that player and he had 1 unit. And we're back at the base. We're starting a new combat phase. But it doesn't say anything because we just have 1 player left. So we're fine with this. But we have an error. Access none trying to read property at square. Just like if the square was not returning this. So that's not possible because we are returning this here. We're never... Are we ever calling that event? We're never calling that event without a unit. Oh yeah, but no, I don't know why. Access none trying to read property at square. That's really not possible. If it's not if the unit is not valid, we're not calling this. Does it return valid if it's empty? I guess it is. No, it's not. It's not. It should never be. And it's not possible. We're basically never calling that event without plugging a tile in there. So we're never supposed to have this, except if we have this right away, for instance. No, we don't have that error, so I'm really not sure where that error comes from. So what if we are doing this? So here we have errors. When we are hitting plus, access none trying to read property at square. That's so impossible. Except if the square doesn't have its own the reference to itself, which is always does. Yeah, that's a mystery to me. That's really a mystery to me. it's not possible that we have an error like this, because it's saying that, like I was saying, it's saying that this blueprint doesn't have the reference to itself. Or try something out. Because I don't think there's something going on which is wrong. Just like if a square actually was dying, was being destroyed, whereas I don't think that's the case. I'm really not sure how. Where does it trigger? We're gonna check out more closely. So when a child actor says something like this, you know there is something wrong. I mean, child actors often bug. So the fight zone . Okay, so I guess I know what's wrong here. Yep. So we add, so what's the bug here? We actually overridden that function in a child class of the square, and Blueprint managed to update the fact that we were calling the super of that function. So calling the super of a function means that a child is calling is actually calling every code written in that function in the parent class. So we're calling the super. And Blueprint updated the list of parameter of the super, but it didn't plug the wires, so we were failing to return the square here. So in that video we basically built the logic that handles when there's only one player remaining and nothing bugs. And we also made it so we had a reference to all units of all players on all machines. So if we start once more, we're not gonna have any bug or any error. That's just like if we should be winning the game here. But we also made it so we detect when a player... Oh no, we didn't detect when a player is odd, I meant. And it doesn't have... this guy should be fighting blue, but we didn't build that logic. But it doesn't matter because we've... So if I'm hitting plus, nothing happens here because we can be in that situation. When I hit plus here, it says end the combat, the current combat, but there is no current combat, so it cannot end the combat, and we're stuck in the combat phase, but it doesn't matter. So if I'm hitting escape, we're back in here. But I think it's gonna wrap up that video, and we're gonna continue in the previous, in the next videos. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.